The card gets declined at pump 4. $40 of gas, and the man holding that card is standing next to a brand new truck. Blacked out grill, dealer plate still taped in the back window. He earns about $140,000 a year. Behind him, waiting to fill up, is a woman in a 14-year-old Corolla with a cracked bumper. She has over $1 million. If you'd been standing in that line at 7:40 on a Tuesday morning, you'd have guessed it exactly backwards. So would I. So would almost everyone. And that's the whole video. Now watch him, because this part is the tell. He doesn't panic. He's done this before. He slides a second card out of the same wallet, taps it, watches the little screen, and the pump clicks on. His shoulders drop about half an inch. Nobody in line notices. Nobody ever notices. She pays without looking at the screen and pulls back onto the highway. So how did we get here? How did we end up in a country where the people who look the richest are usually the ones drowning, and the people quietly building real money go out of their way to look like they have nothing? There's an answer, and it isn't spend less. It's stranger than that. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll be reading your own street differently by the end of the day. Stay with me, because before we're done, I'm going to tell you the one decision the woman in the Corolla made that the man at pump 4 never did. It takes about 4 minutes. Most people never make it. And near the end, I'm going to show you the thing sitting in my garage that proves I am not above a single word of this. Let's start with a street you already know. Picture any decent suburb in America. There's a house everybody has quietly ranked as the rich house. You know the one. Boat in the driveway, 2 trucks, both new. The pool that went in 3 summers ago. They hire a company to do the Christmas lights. And then, 4 doors down, there's the other house. Same siding it had in 2009. A Camry. Lawn chairs that have survived 3 presidents and refuse to die. Be honest with me. You've already decided who's winning, and you have zero information. None. Because everything you can see from the street is spending. And spending is not wealth. Spending is the receipt. It tells you money left. It tells you absolutely nothing about whether any stayed. Here's what's actually happening behind those doors. Depending on which survey you trust, somewhere between 60 and 65% of Americans say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Fine, you think that's the country. But now go a layer deeper, because this is the number that should stop you cold. Roughly 40% of people earning 6 figures say exactly the same thing. 2 out of 5, the people we assume have it figured out. The people with the boat. They get to the end of the month with nothing left. Same as everyone else, just with better scenery. So when you look at that driveway and feel that small flicker of must be nice, hold on to this. You might be envying a household that is one missed paycheck from a genuine crisis. Now, let me show you how a person ends up there, because almost nobody chooses it. It happens in a series of small, extremely reasonable moments. Here's the first one. It's a Thursday afternoon. Your manager pulls you into a room and tells you the number came through. $14,000 more a year. You keep your face professional for exactly as long as it takes to walk back to your desk. That night you go out to dinner, and you order the thing you'd normally skip. And honestly, you've earned it. That dinner is not the problem. That dinner is one of the good parts of being alive. But watch what happens over the next 6 weeks. The lease on your car is up, and the new number makes the upgrade feel responsible instead of reckless. Your apartment starts to feel a little small for someone at your level. The old phone starts to look like a photo of who you used to be. And then, somewhere around week 9, the strangest thing happens. The raise is gone. Not spent stupidly. Not blown. Absorbed. Your life quietly rose to meet your income and then stepped about half an inch past it. And now the bigger paycheck feels exactly as tight as the smaller one did. Economists have a blunt word for this. They call it a treadmill. You run harder, the belt speeds up, the scenery never changes. And there's a mechanism inside it that almost nobody names, even though you felt it. You buy one beautiful chair, just one. It's the nicest thing you own, and it sits there making everything around it look tired. Suddenly the couch is wrong, then the rug, then the curtains, the coffee table, and 8 months later you've replaced an entire room because of one chair. That's the whole trap in miniature. The real cost of a purchase is almost never the purchase. It's everything that purchase quietly obligates you to buy next. Now run that at full scale. You move into the nicer neighborhood, and nobody says a word to you. The pressure arrives anyway. What belongs in that driveway? The vacations the other families take, the version of yourself that fits the zip code. People who stay wealthy spot that cascade early and refuse to start it. So let's put an actual number on what looking rich costs. And I want to warn you, this next number is worse than you think. Start with the most visible status symbol in American life, the car. As of the middle of 2026, the average monthly payment on a new car in America hit a record $777. The average amount financed is now over $44,000. To make that survivable, buyers are stretching loans to lengths that would have sounded insane a generation ago. Nearly 1 in 4 is now signing an 84-month loan, 7 years of payments on a machine that loses value the second it leaves the lot, and 1 in 5 is committing to more than $1,000 a month. Those $1,000 payments aren't supercars. They're trucks and family SUVs, bought by ordinary people who decided the payment was simply the price of looking like they'd arrived. And nobody signs up for 7 years of payments on purpose. Here's how it actually happens. You're in the little office at the end of the showroom. The truck is already outside with a paper tag in the window. The number on the screen is $890 a month, and you have just said out loud that it's too much. And the man across the desk doesn't argue with you. He turns the monitor a few degrees, types for about 4 seconds, and says, "I can get you to $740 if we go out to 7 years." $740 sounds like a win. You're looking at a monthly number, he's selling you a monthly number, and neither of you says the total out loud. Ever. And underneath it, the quiet bleed. About 31% of trade-ins right now are underwater. The owner owes more than the car is worth by an average of around $7,000. That gap doesn't disappear. It gets rolled into the next loan. They drive off the lot already behind, in a newer car, feeling better. Here's the calculation almost nobody runs before signing. Take that average payment, $777. Now imagine you drive a paid-off used car instead and send that exact amount into a low-cost index fund every month. At a long-run average of about 7% a year after inflation, roughly what the US market has delivered over the last century, though nobody's promising you that, after 10 years you're sitting on more than $130,000. Keep going for 30 years, and you're looking at somewhere around $900,000. So the choice was never nice car versus boring car. The choice was a nicer car now, or close to $1 million later. That's the second price tag, the one that never appears in the window. And if you're 25 watching this, it's worse, in the best possible way. 1 extra decade of compounding, and the gap stops being a number. It becomes the difference between still clocking in at 60 because you have to, and stopping because you want to. That car quietly buys a decade of extra working years and hands the bill to a version of you who never got a vote. And the bill doesn't always wait 30 years. Sometimes it shows up every month with interest. Picture a table of 8 at a restaurant. Good night, everybody's laughing, and then the check comes, and somebody says the 4 most expensive words in modern life. Let's just split it. 2 people at that table can afford it. 6 people say yes anyway, and one of them puts it on a card that already has a balance. Americans are carrying about $1.25 trillion in credit card debt, at an average rate north of 22% on cards actually charging interest. So that person didn't just buy dinner, they bought dinner and then paid the bank a steep fee for the privilege of pretending they could afford it. Total household debt in this country has crossed $18.8 trillion. A meaningful slice of that isn't survival. It's performance. The running cost of a costume that fools strangers and robs the person wearing it. Okay. Everything I've said so far, you've probably heard some version of before. Spend less, drive an old car, don't split the check. Here's the part that actually matters. And it isn't about money at all. It's a Tuesday, 9:14 in the morning. 2 colleagues hired the same week, same role, same salary, both good at their jobs, get the same email at the same moment. Restructuring. Their positions are gone at the end of the month. The first one has been the impressive one for a decade. The car, the apartment, the trips, the whole picture. He is unemployed for 11 days, not because he's fast, but because he has no choice. The payments didn't stop when the income did. He takes the first offer that calls, at a number he'd have laughed at a month earlier, and tells everyone he was ready for a change. The second one has been the plain one for a decade. Same salary the whole way. Boring car, modest place. She takes 4 months. She turns down 2 offers that weren't right. She accepts the third, negotiates it upward, and starts when she's ready. And here's what those 4 months actually looked like, because this part never makes it into a personal finance video. She drove her mother to 2 appointments. She slept. She fixed the thing in her apartment she'd been ignoring for a year. She had a Wednesday afternoon with nothing in it. None of that shows up on a spreadsheet. All of it was purchased years earlier with money she didn't spend on a car. Same job, same city, same paycheck for 10 years. The only difference is that one of them spent that decade buying the appearance of wealth, and the other spent it buying the real thing. And notice what she actually bought. It wasn't a bigger number. It was 4 months. The ability to say no. That's the thing this whole game is really about, and almost nobody names it. Wealth isn't money. Wealth is options. Can you walk away from a job that's grinding you down? Can you take 6 months off when your mother gets sick? Can you move for someone you love, or start something without a guaranteed paycheck, or turn down money that would cost you something you believe in? So let me ask you something, and I'd like you to actually answer it instead of letting it slide past. If your job ended on Friday this Friday, how many months could you go before you'd have to take whatever came along? Say the number in your head. Go on. That number is your real net worth, not the one in the app. That one. And it only gets bigger for people who built a gap between what they earn and what they spend. The person earning $200,000 and spending $195,000 has no options. Chained to the next paycheck. Same as everyone, just with nicer chains. So every flashy purchase is a trade. You're exchanging future options for present appearances. Sometimes that's worth it. Far more often it isn't. Here's the simplest way I know to hold it. Income is water coming out of the faucet. Wealth is the water still in the tank. And the new truck only ever tells you the faucet is big. It tells you nothing about the tank, and the louder the signal, the more often it's covering for a tank that's nearly empty. Looking poor is just what a full tank looks like from the outside. If this is landing, this is what I do here every week. The mechanics, not the highlight reel. Because now we get to the part that surprised me most, which is that the quiet ones aren't a handful of eccentrics. They're the pattern. An Experian automotive analysis found that 61% of households earning more than $250,000 a year don't drive luxury brands at all. They drive Hondas, Toyotas, and Fords. They could clearly afford the badge. The majority just don't buy it. The largest study of millionaires ever done in this country surveyed 10,000 of them. And the findings are almost funny. 69% never averaged 6 figures in a single year. A third never had a 6-figure household income at any point in their careers. Roughly 8 in 10 inherited nothing. The research behind The Millionaire Next Door found the same thing decades earlier. Most millionaires spend around 1% of their net worth on a car, and most of them buy used. So the picture isn't glamorous. It's ordinary incomes meeting unusual discipline for a very long time. One line from that world is worth memorizing. When people stop wasting money trying to look wealthy, they finally have money to actually become wealthy. So what do these people actually do differently? Because it turns out it's about 5 things, and none of them are complicated. The first one happens at 6 in the morning on payday, while they're asleep. The money hits the account, and before they're even awake, a transfer has already pulled a chunk of it into investments. They never see it. They never decide. There's no moment of willpower, and willpower is a terrible plan anyway, because it runs out at exactly the wrong times. Most people do this backwards. They earn, they spend, and they save whatever survives to the end of the month, which is nothing, because life expands to swallow whatever's left. The quiet ones reverse the order and live on what remains. Same income, different outcome, purely because of sequence. The second thing is a piece of math they run in the store before they buy anything. They take the price and divide it by the number of times they'll realistically use the thing. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 every time you put it on. Worn 200 times, it costs $1. Same math tells them when to replace something too. They define broken by function, not by feeling. The phone still makes calls. The car still starts. It stays. The third thing happens at a kitchen table, on a quiet evening, with a pen. They write down a number. What a sufficient house costs, a sufficient car, a sufficient year of their life. An actual figure decided once, while they're calm, because the version of you making that call at 11 at night with a phone in your hand is not the version you want deciding anything. High earners get trapped because they never write that number down, so every raise just moves the target. They feel exactly as stretched at 300,000 as they did at 80, and that's the real danger of the feed. It isn't that it makes you want things, it's that it quietly renegotiates your number every single night. Because you're not keeping up with rich people, you're keeping up with other stretched people who are simply better at lighting. Someone with a number written down is immune to that. Someone without one gets talked out of their own life about 40 times a day. Which brings me to my garage. There's an electric bike in it. I bought it about a year ago, and I had the whole story ready. I'd ride it to work. I'd stop driving for anything under 3 miles. I was going to be the kind of person who arrives places on a bike. Slightly windblown, clearly thriving. I've used it 3 times. 3. In a year. So run the math I just gave you. Price divided by the number of times you actually use the thing, and that bike has cost me over $600 per ride. I could have rented one for a weekend, found out in an afternoon, and kept the rest. And here's the part I want you to sit with. I knew all of this when I bought it. Every number in this video. I bought it anyway, because for about 10 minutes in that store, I wasn't buying a bike. I was buying a version of myself. That's the pull. It does not care what you know, which is exactly why the man at Pump 4 wasn't stupid. He wasn't reckless. He just made a series of individually reasonable decisions, each one costing a little more than the last, in a world engineered to make every single one of them feel normal. That's not a character flaw. That's a very well-designed system, and it is working exactly as intended. Which brings us back to the gas station. I told you the woman in the Corolla made one decision the man at Pump 4 never did, and that it takes about 4 minutes. Here it is. She sat down once, years ago, and decided what her life would cost. And then she set up an automatic transfer so the difference left her account on payday before she ever saw it. That's it. That's the whole thing. 4 minutes on a banking app, and then a decade of not renegotiating it every month. She didn't out-earn him. She out-decided him. Once. And that's why she can pay for gas without checking, and he needs 2 cards to do it. Not because of what they made, because of what they kept, and how early they stopped asking permission to keep it. So the next time you're at a stoplight next to something gorgeous and expensive, and you feel that small pull, the one that says you should be further along than you are, remember Pump 4. Remember that you are looking at spending, and spending tells you nothing. The goal was never to look rich. The goal was to be free. And freedom is quiet. It doesn't need a badge, a logo, or an audience. So here's the only thing I'm going to ask you to do today. Stop flexing. Stop buying receipts for people who are not watching, who are not paying your bills, and who, let's be honest, are very likely more broke than you are. Every dollar you spend proving something to that crowd is a dollar that could have been buying you a Tuesday with nothing in it. And if you want the other version of money, the quiet one, the one nobody can see, subscribe. That's the entire point of this channel. Every week, one piece of the machine taken apart until it makes sense. Stop flexing. Start keeping. I'll see you in the next one.